Hello again. I've gotten rid of my spying credentials and my cloak and gown from the Mithra cult. I'm going to take you straight into the university intel illegitimate monarchy sectors, and I'm going to tell you all about the lies in all of those places. Christ College, Cambridge is particularly interesting. It is the epicenter for 800 years of everything that is false. Oxford has a better reputation. Christ's Cambridge is linked to 2 of the Harvard colleges and is linked irrevocably to Yale and the skulls that we've heard all about, and the skullduggery that keeps the world permanently at war. I'm going to get my degree certificate. It's no worth the fucking paper what it's written on, because of the deceit of all of the people who are educated in our countries. They are now stealing from the children of our country and the children of their own family to the tune of £50,000 for a 4 years honours degree that I got for free. It's in the tube. It's worthless to me because I understand the university fraud and how that dismembers the free world. And I'm going to tell you about those 800 years at Cambridge, but I'm going to tell you first about the links of this little lecture to the lecture I gave on the stealing of the world's ownership using the religious fraud, the academic frauds, and all of the political and geopolitical false histories that are released by the Quisling media and the Quisling historians. There are Quisling historians in this story as well, but I want to start where I ended off in the last seminar or lecture or little chat that I had with you on world ownership, where we stopped on the concept that the Cohens and the high priests of Israel are in a very responsible position indeed. And I'm now going to take the camera off myself. I've got no silly hats on this evening. I've got my Scottish blue jersey and I've got my warm heart inside my thorax, and it keeps me going really, really well, because the more you understand the frauds, the more you see the tragedy of it, and the more you want to make an effective intervention. All of the academics now have taken away their capacity to become influential because of their roles as team players in multinational crimes. Okay? And that is crimes against their own students now. Right then, I'm going to take the camera down. This is me, George Lees, talking to you in my own home about the tragedy that is the stealing of the world from the world's people, and its indigenous peoples, and the politicians that could have run sovereign nations, but were it for the sly methods that the secret societies deploy all around the world. And that started in the Mithraea 100 to 200 years before Christ was born, and that was in Germany as well. In Germania, in the Gladiator film, the Germans are portrayed as vicious and savage pagans. In the Mithraea, all over the locations we discussed the other day, the Germans are hard at work with the Franks, with the Italians, with the even the Brits and the Anglo-Saxons. Yeah, and that then endorses the North African countries and the Arab countries. And I'm now going to turn the camera onto the screen, and I really don't know where to start, but I think we should start where we left off, on the Cohens and the high priests of Israel, and the responsibility of those bloodlines, which have to be pure in inverted commas, and the way that they make them pure is by marrying into very, very close family members. Which is why the bloodlines are insecure. Darwin was a fellow of Christ's College, Cambridge. Yeah, Darwin is a eugenicist, and Darwin realizes about the human condition and the importance of interbreeding. But all of it, his insight comes more than 2,000 years too late to save the integrity of those bloodlines and to make them physiologically capable. I will tell you about the Bloomsbury set and their mental illnesses as they shag each other and they corrupt the world from their elite centre in the heart of London, in league with their colleagues at Christ's College, Cambridge. Yeah? Right, let's turn the camera onto the facts and let's take you back to the Cohens and the high priests of Israel that are descended from Aaron in the Bible. Okay? I don't know whether or not we got the lighting correct, but let's first start with the Rothschilds. You remember we were talking about the shrubbery that the Rothschilds are given for running the world wars and for funding all sides in all wars since the American Revolution. I'm gonna show you one of the big players in that is this guy, and we finished off with him, but I did not have time in the last video I made to give you the profile for that man. Okay, can you see the picture of him up there on the top left? Sorry. This movie is also going to endorse issues like the creation of the Warner Brothers in America and the creation of cartoon characters to cover up massive crimes against the people. Okay, but there we've now got the camera focused on Lionel Nathan de Rothschild, where I left off yesterday. This is one of the sires of Queen Victoria's children. He died, he was born in 1808 in St Swithun's in London, and he died in 1879 in Piccadilly in London. He was buried in the Jewish burial ground with the shrubberies around him, and he is the son of Nathan Mayer Rothschild and Hannah Rothschild. Can you guess the maiden name of Hannah Rothschild? I did not notice this till yesterday evening. I'm going to give you another one of those dramatic pauses so that you can have a little ponder about what Hannah Rothschild's name might have been before she was wedded to this massively influential man. That's massively influential man. Sorry, my blue tack on my plinth has gotten a bit dry. But the question is, who is Hannah Rothschild before she was married to Nathan Mayer Rothschild? And the answer is, she is Miss Baren-Cohen, the bloodline of the high priests of Israel. The Cohens, the Cohans. Isn't it funny? You've got the world's owners who helped to partition Palestine and to create Israel in 1947, but they're already married into the high priest's bloodline, and that bloodline is so narrow that when Aaron married, he married his sister Miriam. In the first or second generations in the Genesis story. So they need you as slaves. Let me read you the transcript. This is Nathan Mayer Rothschild and Hannah Rothschild, maiden name in brackets Baren-Cohen, husband of Charlotte de Rothschild and father of Leonora de Rothschild, Evelina de Rothschild, Nathan Rothschild, 1st Baron Rothschild, Alfred Charles de Rothschild and Leopold de Rothschild. Brother, oh sorry, it's going to collapse every time because of my blue tack. It's Tory blue and it's letting me down. Okay, sorry about that. Let me just scan it so you can get a picture of him. This is the man that Greg Hallett has widely publicised as the sire with one of his brothers of all of Queen Victoria's 10 illegitimate children. He's the King of Kings, I believe. Okay, and you've got the linkages to Charlotte Nathan, Sir Anthony de Rothschild, 1st Baronet of Tring Park, Nathaniel de Rothschild, Hannah Mayer Fitzroy. That's Hannah that marries into, I believe that it was a Julie in the original movie about the pre-Napoleonic times, and that I believe was not this Rothschild, because this one was born only in 1808, so it was his dad, I think, Nathan Mayer, who was involved in all of that movie about the Rothschilds' triumphs at Waterloo and the taking over of the British Central Bank in the regions below the burial ground in London where the shrubbery is. The rewards are much more than the Monty Python's team portray. Let me show you. This is a website called www.genie.com and it's /Lionel-Nathan-de-Rothschild and then it's a string of letters. It is a very insightful and interactive website, and because of that and because of the damage I'm doing to the elites that run the world, it will probably be taken down. But if you've got your wits about you, try and find it. It's immensely useful. And I can look at that Nathan Mayer Rothschild character. I've just clicked on him. There he is. He was born in Frankfurt. He died in Frankfurt. And he died of septicemia. And he launched something called the Brady Street Bunch, the Brady Street Story. Because he was buried in the Ashkenazi cemetery at Brady Street in Whitechapel, London, England. And if I look closely there, I would imagine that they also have shrubberies. Can you remember Monty Python's demanding that the knights who say knee, which is a joke about the Knesset in Israel, and the Knesset being the headquarters for the high priest through the whole of religious time and biological time, then you begin to see the magnitude of the jokes. So the Brady Street Bunch are pictured in one of these images. Let's find it again just in case I disrupt the images too much. Okay, the Brady Street Bunch is just popular culture, and it's just one of the massive jokes and obfuscation tools that they use to cover up the power of these people. and the damage that they do to the free world. Okay, Brady Street Bunch. Oh, we've not got it this time. I was able to find it before. Let's see if it's still open on one of those other sites, because this is Scooby-Doo and Hanna-Barbera. It's ever so complicated, but when you see the templates that they use to cover up their sensational crimes, then you begin to realize that. So this is the Hanna-Barbera Cartoon Network, and that is the reason that the Hanna-Barbera Cartoon Network was created. Joseph Barbera is a mobster. He runs massive bootlegging companies in America, and it leads to the need to create diversions like the Brady Street Bunch, which within the last hour or so they have taken down from a Google Images search. Well, then, here we go, and that's another Brady Street Bunch Milwaukee Yelp, the Brady Street Bunch Wikipedia. That'll do. There we go, there they are. I don't know who they are or what they do, but as soon as I heard about Brady Street in London, and that being the burial place of one of the massive owners of the world, then you realise the need for a trivial diversion. And the location for some of the other burial grounds are Brent, and that becomes jokes about the Office and the people that appear in the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies, and they are now appearing with relatives of the Cohen family. Because when I saw this last night, when I saw this, which I've just shown you, the issues on the Rothschilds, and let me just read Nathan Mayer Rothschild's. This is one of the fathers of the world's ownership, and he's born in a Frankfurt am Main, and the links to Hessen, Nassau are massive, and Frankfurt is now the location for many of the financial institutions in the European system and the global system. The World Bank, the European Central Bank, the buildings are massive and Babylonian, and he's in the Brady Street Ashkenazi Cemetery in Whitechapel in London, where the Jack the Ripper murders took place. He's the son of Mayor Amschel Rothschild and Guto Rothschild, and I believe those are the people in the Rothschild movie made by Daryl Zanuck, and he's husband of Hannah Baren-Cohen. Okay, and I think the Barent thing will be a joke about Brent in London, and that goes into the Office joke. And let me now read out some of the family members. Father of Charlotte Nathan Rothschild. So that is a girl and a boy's name, and we've told you about that several times in the jokes that they share, and the hilarious Hillary joke, and the people that were involved in the brutalisation of the navies in the Spanish and Portuguese battles with the French, how they changed the gender of the names, and how they changed the names of towns in Hertfordshire depending on the outcomes of the massive battles and the sinking of entire fleets, so that the Rothschild families and their financiers could profit from that. Okay, we've got Sir Anthony de Rothschild, 1st Baronet of Tring Park, right next to where I used to live and where some of my children were born. Nathaniel de Rothschild, Hannah Mayer Fitzroy. Now she's the one, the Fitzroy link is the link to the Gentiles that was portrayed in the Daryl Zanuck movie. and I've been looking at some other attempts to unite the Gentiles and the Jews, and they're ever so well covered up in popular culture. When you look at the John Brown movie and Mrs. Brown, which is a jocular film about the life of Queen Victoria and her capacity to dominate her court, she was dominated by these Rothschilds. She was shagged multiple times by the King of Kings and one of his other, it was either a brother or a child of his, and they sired all 10 of the illegitimate children of Queen Victoria. Her son Bertie is portrayed in the Mrs. Brown movie as being ashamed of what she does and the involvement of the Scotsman. And when you look at the Scotsman and John Brown coming in and imposing his will on them, it is just a joke. But you find that there are Archies and Johns, but they're linked into the family in different ways, and the ways that they cover up the marrying of Hannah Rothschild later on to the let me see if I can find that. It's on my other computer next door, and I've been looking at it all afternoon, because the Hannah Rothschild that married into, she was the first wife to officially leave the family and to desert the Jewish faith to marry into a Scottish aristocrat, and his name was Rosebery, and he lived up in Scottish estates, and she had to go up to Scotland, and she died really, really young. She was quite plump. I need to watch what I'm saying, because I've been prosecuted for calling ladies in pubs obese. Let's call Hannah Rothschild that married the man in Scotland, she was plump. Okay, she was portrayed as a very controversial person at that time, because what she had done was she had left the Jewish faith and she had married into a Gentile bloodline north of the border, and that man became one of the richest citizens on the globe because of that. Now when you read about it, it's all sorts of false truths, and the John Brown film is a complete lie about Queen Victoria's love for Prince Albert. The stories about Prince Albert being killed and actually frozen to death in his bedroom when he was given the influenza, and all of it, and his Prince Albert chain and his homosexuality was the opening for the Rothschild King of Kings. Let's take it back to the original one. That's that one. Oh, getting windy outside again. I don't think I need to dwell on this too long, because the other things I've got to tell you are sensational. They tie into this story, but they tie into the Mithraeum concept, and the concept that we've got the Jewish faith with the need for ultra pure bloodlines that take in the Baren-Cohens, and the Cohens who are the people who get the wealth from the Jewish nation for all of the kosher butchery. I'll take you next door now and I'll show you something of the magnitude of that issue. I'm just going to have a little glass of wine, and let me show you the King of Kings before I split. I kind of see him now. So that's Hannah Rothschild, also a Baren-Cohen, and that's her graveyard in the Ashkenazi cemetery in Whitehall. So you can see that the Rothschilds are the dominant males, and only when the Julie marries into the Fitzroy character do you get a split in that bloodline. And what they're doing when they marry into the Cohen bloodlines is marrying into the high priests of Israel, and that is, they've now got ownership of the world, its territory, its armies, its monarchies, and one of its massive religions. And the man who took religion and the funding of religion to the Vatican was a man called Kalman Rothschild. And I've told you the story about Kalman Rothschild. When he met the Pope in Rome, the Pope allowed him to kiss the ring on his finger rather than kissing his feet, which take you back to the frauds in the biblical text, where kissing the feet is terribly important to everyone as one of the protocols that you have to adhere to. I'm going to take you next door and let you see. There's the man that was the King of Kings, that did all of the dirty in Queen Victoria's bedroom, or a lot of it. Many of our children were sired by him. And Bertie, in the movie about Queen Victoria's bereavement and a replacement with her lover John Brown, the stories that they make up about Disraeli and about her son Bertie. Her son Bertie is portrayed as a perfectly decent and upstanding chap who's afraid of the reputational damage that she may do to them, and all of her children were heavily engaged in frauds. The Jack the Ripper murders involved those people, and the people that murdered Marcus Manuel, the true King of England, or the child that was born on the Isle of Wight, was murdered by an ultra obese member of that bloodline, the illegitimate bloodline that had been sired by him or one of his very, very close relatives. They're all very, very close because they're all inbred, which is why they got the syphilis problem, and that was a very, very difficult thing for them to shake off. Okay, let me quickly show you the food code issues next door. And I've mentioned that in the food code and in the health code issues, the involvement of law now is massive, and most of that is portrayed in the Devil's Advocate movie. And I'm going to take you into that now and show you something of the Moyes case and the food code issues that mean that kosher butchery is an absolute must unless you want to find yourself in jail or in a debtor's court because of what they it's getting very windy indeed. And the rain is beginning to pound down. Okay, so this is the Devil's Advocate, and this is his first case. When the very effective attorney goes to America, he finds that he's taken on a case called the Moyes case, and I talked about that yesterday. Moyes is now the manager at Manchester United. He was trained at Everton in Liverpool, where Hitler was trained, and when I revealed that, the manager switches from Manchester United and they replace him with a Moyes. Now the Moyes is that man there who's killing that animal in the underground. That's the Mithraeum. It's all an interlinked joke, and this is the devil's advocate, the man who never loses a case, and has been picked by John Milton. John Milton went to Christ's College, Cambridge. He's one of the famous alumni, but the John Milton in this film is actually the devil. Isn't it funny? Let's watch a little bit more about what the case is that he has to defend. So he's killing a goat and he's bleeding it, and he's taking the relevant parts of that goat, which are the cheek, the foreleg and the tongue. And you see later on that when he meets the man in the underground, that the man is able to cast a spell in the courtroom by driving nails into the tongue of the butchered goat, and that silences the attack attorney, so the man who's prosecuting him, and the devil's advocate and his company get paid with vast amount of cash to defend the kosher butchery system, and it's ever so insightful when you watch it. This is the visit to the underground. This is the ghetto that the man works in, and down here you can find him with the issues of the kosher butchery, and the colour schemes are terribly important. You learn later on, I learned in Wikipedia about the green, red and gold colours that are very important in the ownership of your home, and whether or not you still are able to retain that. Can you see it? The green and red are there, and all of the issues of this man's wife having to choose the decorative codes. The crocodile shoes are part of the animal jokes in the Piso fraud, and this, watch this little space here, because there's nobody in it, and all of a sudden Moyes appears there. There he is. Okay, and behind him, did you see the pile of carcasses and the meat stuff that's all lined up? So when you've got the various body parts in the kosher laws, the Jewish nation is declared by the one true God that 20 parts of an animal are gifted to the high priests of Israel. The people that the Rothschilds marry in London, and the high priests are the Cohens, and the next most powerful family in the Israeli rankings are the Levites. They're the ones that run the tents in the battles. Here we see the preparation of the tongue, the capacity to have a magic spell. Did you see the wand sitting on the tabletop? Yeah, and here's the nails, and I would never have believed in any of the occult. Here's the colour code. The colour code goes even into the hairline, and look at the quality of the skin. If you've got tinted colours in the skin, and all of that is laughed at in the jokes that they make in the films also in the UK. Now the woman is persecuted by the devil, is raped by the devil, and her name is Mary, and I believe that is a joke in their eyes about the virgin birth. And everything that she chooses, they say that it's inappropriate because of her complexion. So the links of the colour code to the ownership of the real estate are massive, and the Esmeralda issues in Paris in The Hunchback of Notre Dame focus on Esmeralda, who's coloured in robes that are green, red and gold, and those are the colours for the massive Latin American countries. And you can see that the devil's advocates people who understand the code and the importance of this in Jewish law are having a massive joke at the poor punters who go to the Hollywood movie and they see it and they are bemused by it. It's a fascinating film, but when you look at the fact that there are legal obligations that tie people into multi-billion-dollar lawsuits, and the man in the underground who's driving the nails into the tongues is able to pay in cash because all of the Jewish worshippers are adherent to these massive codes that are legally obligations for them now, and that goes into health, and it goes into circumcision and the horrible issues that are portrayed in last night's video. Okay, this is them now arguing the toss about that man just following his religious faith. He's very courteous to the judge, and he acknowledges the judge's expertise in kosher law and the kashrut laws that apply to the Moyes victim. This is the one who's been cast under the spell, and when he tries to change the course of the case by making articulate accusations, then somebody's driving the nails into the tongue and he's incapable of speaking without coughing and choking. Okay, so I can show you and everything that happens in the food code, even in Christianity. Everything is stitched up. The fish on a Friday I've explained to you. The goldfish issue is actually the Nathan Mayer Rothschild issue. The goldfish is his penis, because that is the fish, that's the penis that sires Queen Victoria's very bountiful children, because they are then sent out to all of the European monarchies, and that is the future of the world determined. Can you see him? He's beginning to suffer from the spell, and the issues that you have with all. I firmly believe in the occult now. I think it's very important, and the world owners have known about the importance of magic and the capacity to cast these spells for long periods of biological time. But let me take you back to the massive issue that is the Cohens and it's the results of the frauds in popular culture. Here now we have the entry of the man who plays the devil in the movie. That's Al Pacino, and he turns out to be the father of the young attorney. Okay, and that's Moyes that led to the replacement of Alex Ferguson with Moyes from Everton, when I revealed the potency of this information, and that was about 18 months ago now. The massive frauds at Manchester United and the Ponzi schemes there also involve American directors. But let's take you back to the simple cases and the cartoon characters that they need to cover up these massive abuses. Okay, and the colour code thing, if you want to look it up on Wikipedia, look up the laws for the Jewish faiths and what you need to look at for skin quality, and a lot of that is tied into the ancient presence of leprosy, and the leprosy stories in the biblical texts are vitally important, because you've got miracle cures and all sorts of things that are written in the Bible. And I've explained that the biblical writings, or the writings in the Talmud, are now relayed as codes of conduct in medical practice. I showed you the man that prefers to suck the 1 to 8 day old child's penis and to get rid of the blood that way. It's unbelievable that practices like that can be defended by citing biblical texts, but everything in the biblical text is a fraud, written by humans, written by people that take over the world using those mind control mechanisms. And if you dare stand in their way, you'll be dispossessed of your property by a very, very ruthless lawyer. Let's go to Christ's College, Cambridge. Everything about the university at Cambridge and Oxford is a lie. You look at the names of the colleges, and I've been to many of them. I've banqueted in the halls that are Christ's banqueting hall. All of it is a fraud. I've stayed in Magdalen College, that's Mary Magdalene. It is arcane, it's cold, it's built of stone, and everything that happens there, and you look at the names of the places, the lecture theatres, all the streets around about it, they're characters that never actually existed. They're in the biblical texts, but they are massive frauds. So there's Lionel Nathan Rothschild and the London burial grounds that are the Monty Python shrubbery jokes. Okay, and the Tring homes and the massive homes that involve the obese Hannah Rothschild. And Hannah and Her Sisters is a movie that was made by Woody Allen, the Jew from America that loves to have a laugh at the insecurity of the Jewish nation and all of the ordinary people that are worshipping Jews, that believe that the worship and the foreskin issues will save their souls and will get them to heaven rather than to hell. It is ever so clever, but it is ever so tragic for the free and potentially prosperous world. Right, let's close him down, let's get rid of the Brady Bunch, and let's go into some of the other issues that have been. So when I was listening, when I realised that the Baren-Cohens, that's B-A-R-E-N-T, Cohens, are married into the Rothschild bloodlines at that level, and as recently as they have been, and when all of that happens and all of that history is broken by the decision of Hannah Rothschild to move away and marry the Scotsman, then that creates a huge ruckus and a media frenzy. And when they get a media frenzy, then they need to cover their tails. Okay, and when I listen, I'm very interested in a character called Ali G, because he sings about, he's lewd, he is absolutely politically incorrect, and he was born as a Jew, although in all of the interviews he makes he denounces the Jews, and he interrogates people who don't know that he's actually an actor and a comedian, and he surprises them with his outspoken statements on sexuality, even bestiality. Is pictured in bed with dogs, making love to them, and he goes around all of the American continent defaming everything that they do, dog breeding. He likes to sniff people and see whether or not that, like the canine issues, that they are good and they are sexy and they are up for, you know, his attention. And what he does is that he uses cultural mores or mores, and like the French male gender, he goes and kisses people. And his name is Ali G, and when you see him with Madonna, one of the people that I'm pinning my faith on for being spirited enough to challenge these systems. Let me just show you what happens. And this is very politically correct compared to the rest of the comedies that this man makes. So it's Madonna, Ali G. And this features a limousine, and we've talked about the limousines.
Hey birds, when your device Ride punani, ride punani, me riding the punani, me feeling the punani.
Sacha Baren-Cohen. The links to the high priest of Israel are unmissable, which is why I got so excited last night. He is like the Marx Brothers. He's there to be a sensational twit, and he's there to cause offence, so that the magnitude of the high priest and the Rothschild crimes cannot be realised by the world that is stolen by them. His brother is a professor of autism at Cambridge. He was educated, can you guess? Christ's College, Cambridge.
Is you Madonna?
You my driver?
Is you Madonna? You probably don't look less big than you do on the telly, but I still definitely would.
You wish.
I do actually.
Hey, Mr. DJ, put a record on. I wanna dance with my baby.
So I've just entered Borat home. This is him going back to his village in Kazakhstan. Now Kazakhstan is interesting because that is the place where they made the movie about Air Force One and about all of the crooked leaders in that country and their threats to the American president. Everything is inverted. Everything is a lie. The insider traders, the treasonous people, are the American intel. They sell their president. They try and get him killed for cash. And Borat is absolutely incorrect and politically offensive.
Hello, English friend. What? My name's Borat, like English Barry, but people call me Steve. Steve. A year ago, I come to England and make many reportings. Please, in this program, you will watch them and also see my life here in Kazakhstan. I hope you like. It is nice. I like.
The Mithraeum concept.
Come back now to my village. I haven't been here 1 month. I've been traveling everywhere. Hey, Papa! Hey!
Phrygian hat.
Where's Philo? Philo! He has grown mustache since I last come.
The Islamic issues of having your everything above your up to your upper lip covered, which is why the women have to wear veils.
understand we love animals.
The Hamlet joke. All over the world, Ham as a prefix to the place name is a joke about the kosher butchery, and the Empress of Blanding's jokes are likely to be about fat princesses or Hannahs who are plump. Yeah, and all of it, he's able to get away with the political incorrectness. Hollywood does the job for the Rothschilds, and the news media do the rest. They tell the lies, they invert the story, they make heroes of the world's tyrants.
This is Igor. He is my pet. He is a beautiful pig. I joke. I love him. Are there any eyes left?
So the bits that you get to keep. People used to talk to me when they realised that I was a fisherman, and they know the fish joke. They know the fish is the penis. But they used to tell me that they love to eat the cheeks. And in the food codes, it's amazing the gifts that the Jewish clergy take from the slaves and the tenant farmers that are the people that there are several tiers of society in the Jewish nation, and the rules on who gets what when you butcher the pig. In my mother's family, one of the biggest days in their life was when the pig was killed, and that was done on the farm by slitting its throat. Okay, and I've told you about how you have to now take that animal 150 miles to get it slaughtered, so that the politicians can have a whole army of bureaucrats ticking boxes about how that. So what this man is doing is showing how society could be in a localized setup, and without the rules and regulations. But when you see the political correctness that has now been imposed on the West, all of it looks amazing. But when he does it in America, it just makes people smile, and they're intimidated by it, like the Mick Dundee character.
This is my wife. This is my other wife. This is my missus. This is my girlfriend. This is my sister.
Theatrical pause, did you see it?
This one I have to pay money for. But she worth it. Wow, 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 wow. Now please watch my report on Henley Regatta.
So the Henley Regatta is that man with all of that incorrectness meeting the Oxbridge people. Can you see it? He's in there to cause offence, he's in there to stir the shit, he's massively influential, he's loved by all of the people for his trivialisation, and he looks a little bit like the Marx brother that sang about Lydia, and he knows, the Marx brother that sang about Lydia, he knows all about every geopolitical issue. If you listen to the lyrics of his song, and the sinking of the ships, and the Andrew Jackson coming forward. Andrew Jackson was one of the presidents of America who tried to take back the funding from the Rothschilds. Can you see it? The Rothschilds marry into the Baren-Cohens and the Cohens for several generations to keep the purity of their bloodline from Genesis, if that is to be believed. But when you look at the history of the Garden of Eden and the writing of the Christian Bible and all of the things that happened in the Garden of Eden in the 1960s, then we do not know how old the Genesis story is. We do not know how old the Christianity story is. All we've got are a series of dates and a series of jokes about Daleks and time switches that accommodate the fictitious birth of Jesus in Herculaneum, where the Pisos did the writing. Okay, it's complicated, but when you see people like him inserted and trivializing everything that happens, let's see what we get when you get Borat and dogs. There's a particularly vicious one where he's making love to the dog in his own bed, and his mum comes in and he asks to sniff people at the dog contest, or Borat and Jobs, and he goes around America absolutely mortifying people by his incorrectness. And you can see this is him applying for jobs, declaring that he would like to take photos of the women in the toilet, the women's toilet, and would that be okay? And all of it is outlandish. And you saw the interview with Madonna. You see the belly dancers and the naked dancers stripping around in the video that he makes in that pop sector, and that is just the type of trivial diversion that Michael Moore, the American comedian and commentator, launched to cover the sins of Michael Moore, my MP, for nearly a decade. Yeah, so the world leaders get shielded by twits and by cartoons. Here we have Peter Potamus. The Piso joke is everywhere. Yeah, and here we have the creators of some of the cartoon characters, and the cartoon characters are created by when you hear Sacha Baren-Cohen, who's Ali G, talking about George W. Bush, he slips in the conversation that George Bush's wife, Barbara Bush, is much more dangerous than him. And I thought to myself, what's he on about there? And then I remembered that when I was a child, Hanna-Barbera are the people that make all of the cartoons, and they eventually get bought out by the Warner Brothers, who are Nazi refugees. Okay, and the Warner Brothers launch people like Motley Flint. Now Motley Flint, I would have to look him up on my OneNote files, but Motley Flint was a scamster with the Bush family. He was involved in the Bush Overby scandals, and he was shot dead in a law court by a victim of one of his share issuance scams, and those scams are still going on to this day in transatlantic locations. In the Cairn scam, run by Bill Gamble, where the Gambles are friends of George W. Bush. George W. Bush came to Bill Gamble's wedding in Glasgow. It's been taken out of the public archive for shame because they run scams. Now, if you remember the cartoon characters that are created by Hanna-Barbera, yeah, that's why the Barbara issue is being covered up as a joke. Barbara Bush was George W. Bush's wife, George Walter Bush. The man gets his degree from Christ College, Cambridge, in history, and he knows, he's very intelligent like his professorial brother. He knows that if you want to take the sin or the shame from someone, that you laugh about something on a related issue with obfuscation of the names. So here we have Motley Flint was killed in the law courts because he was a criminal with Grandad Bush at Bush Overby, the oil scandal, and the man that was killed in the court was called Motley Flint. So the character that appears as the dog and the dog's allowed to shag Ali G in his bed, yeah, and he's allowed to sniff women's rears as if he was a dog. That's a cover for the killing of Motley Flint, and the dog's name in the cartoons made by Hanna-Barbera is Muttley. Isn't that amusing? And then when you look at all of the names of the Hanna-Barbera cartoon characters, you see that they are just massive jokes about places like Yosemite, and that is the bear jokes in Yosemite National Park, which is where Prince Charles was when he accused Putin of being a bigger criminal and a threat to the free world, the biggest threat to the free world since Hitler. And the day that Prince Charles made that statement in Yosemite National Park in Canada, that still belongs to the British monarchy, the World Economic Forum was being hosted in St. Petersburg in Russia, where Putin was the host, within a few months of hosting peacefully the Winter Olympics in Sochi. Okay, I could not find the Brady Bunch, but let me see if I can take you back to some of the other Hanna-Barbera. So Scooby-Doo is a man that eventually finds himself in the underworld as he goes to the centre of the earth with cartoon characters, because at the centre of the earth we have the renewable oil scandal, and we have the capacity to pretend that we are looking into catacombs in Iceland and that they link you into continental Europe. Now that could well be the case. I do not know how the renewable oil system works in the subterranean cavities, but the subterranean cavities are there, and oil is perpetually released on the surface of the earth, and all of the oil executives know that. And I'm delighted to see in the supermarket today that the fuel prices, for the first time in, I think it's 5 years for the fuel, they're coming down. Every year in that last 5 they have gone up by 20%. My relentless persecution of the criminals in the Ponzi schemes at the big 6 energy companies and their involvement in European conglomerates selling British products that are the same as they were in the 1960s, it's beginning to come home to roost. They are incapable of standing up in the tide of morality that is coming at them and the tide of information that is going to bring them all crashing down. Okay, let's see what we get when we go back. The launch of the Cartoon Network. Now I've explained to you the cover up of, so Hanna-Barbera is HB, and it tells you a lot about the industry and how it was set up in 1957. That's the year I was born. Founders William Hanna, Joseph Barbara, George Sidney. Headquarters LA, California, where Motley Flint was killed in the courthouse. Okay, parents, Taft Broadcasting, Time Warner, that's the Warner Brothers. I forget what their names were when they were Germans, but when they came over here they started up shoe factories, and that is the Jumanji joke. They changed their name for respectability, and all of it is a massive joke. The Tafts are multi-millionaires as well. They're part of the ownership of that, and I was quite stunned to find that Melrose, New Mexico native William Hanna, Melrose is just 10 miles up the road from me. It's the home of creamy creme de la creme Telfer, who's been the Scottish rugby coach for a couple of decades. He's a very, very capable man, but he is a Freemason, and my uncle told me that his nickname was Creamy, and I've just learned that that is creme de la creme. Melrose invite French Freemasonic clubs to their sevens every year, and a couple of years ago they invited Saracens, which are now almost totally South African owned, and all of it is a shameful selling off of a great game which was great when it was amateur. And you can see that some of the earliest launches for the Hanna-Barbera company are Puss Gets the Boot. I've explained to you the Puss in Boot jokes and the Pussy jokes that are the Calpurnius Piso jokes, and the Shania Twain in the leopard skin coat jokes are also vicious in popular culture. Okay, that's just a little touch on it. The rest of the programs that they launch include I Love Lucy. Lucy is Lucifer. Yeah. Okay, what else have we got? Harry Cohen, head of Columbia Pictures, the columns and the links to the temple in Jerusalem that we talked about at length yesterday, and that the high priest of Jerusalem, the Cohen, is in charge of. Can you see how intertwined and interbred it is? It's distinctly unhealthy. Huckleberry Hound, I can't remember what is, and you've got the Flintstones, which is also Fred Flintstone and his mate Benny. Ben is one of the big names in Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu is the current leader in Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu was in London in the 7/7 bombing, and he was in the building that was right above the bus where they killed, I think it was over 50 London commuters, and on the side of the bus the bastards have written "Terror, bold and brilliant." Okay, it's getting really gusty outside, yet the gods are angry, and the only way to stop it is to keep reporting it and to tell your MP Michael Moore, in my case, what has actually happened and why he has a Michael Moore in America covering up his massive crimes in the P&O and shipping sectors. Yeah, the Michael Moore in America is a twit. Baren-Cohen is quite humorous. I like to watch some of his things, but it leads to insight like the Monty Python's joke, and he sings about his Julie and scantily clad women in Mithraic uniforms like mithril, and they're using the yellow and green colours that are mentioned in the food code and property codes that are massive legal Jewish issues, to steal from the people and to take into the judiciary what should rightly be the people's assets. And in yesterday's video we showed you the sucking issues for the foreskin issues and the bleeding. It is absolutely disgusting that all of those things, they're citing the solutions and the authorization to do that from the biblical texts, and the biblical texts condone, on behalf of your army fighting for the one true God, the despoiling of 32,000 virgins if you win. All of that, and the burning of people who have lost, the shaving of their heads and their burning in fire pans, it's in the same chapter. Okay, Josie and the Pussycats. What else have we got? I showed you the hippopotamus jokes. Scooby-Doo is another dog issue. Huckleberry Hound, and the new Fred and Barney Stones, that's the Flintstones. The Flintstones live in Yosemite. The national park jokes are a huge triumph for the global monarchies who have not killed the other global monarchies. So I mentioned yesterday the food chain in the monarchies and how the Germans who have become the British kings and queens, total bastards all of them, for 160 years since Queen Victoria's issues, and those issues of the Rothschilds buried in the shrubbery for their service to a grateful nation, and the knights that say knee in a jocular way, which is a joke about the Knesset and the home of the High Priest of Israel. Okay, let me tell you a little bit more about the criminal who was the Barbara person. Joseph Barbara, mobster, born Giuseppe. Now when you see Joseph, you now understand the implications of it. It's a new start. Joseph Maria Jr. Peter, every time you see the word Pierre and you look at the Conservative conference in Brighton, Pierre is French for Peter. Peter is the first of the evangelistic people that were in Jesus' thrall, in the 12 disciples. He never existed. Let me take you at that point. Oh no, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the man. So Barbara, he was involved in the Luciano crime family. Can you see that? There, the Luciano crime family. Frank Costello, famous names, Abbott and Costello. If they're criminals, you need a cover for it. Vito Genovese. Vito is Vito Corleone. Yeah. Cosa Nostra is the nationalized mafia in America. So what you've got in this cover-up is the Hanna-Barbera cartoon sector launched to cover criminals that run protection rackets, that run bootleggers and run fraudulent oil companies involving Motley Flint, who gets killed by a cheated investor in a law court run by the judiciary. And in the Supreme Court in America, we've heard all about how President Woodrow Wilson was coerced in a sexual scandal. He launched Intermarriages and one other person into the Supreme Court, and Bill Clinton was the next president. Bill Clinton is the half-brother of Queen Elizabeth II. Their father, both of them, is Winston Churchill. Okay, so we've got links to the biggest crime families. The Lucianos are the ones that culled the returning troops in Italy and France, that were in league with President Nixon. And you've got Gambinos, Bonanos, and all of it can be found. And isn't this funny? Barbara is buried. This is the big mobster, is buried at the Calvary Cemetery in Johnson City, New York. Johnson is the man that signed Executive Order 1111 on the Air Force One plane that is involved in the Kazakhstan story that is a joke about Air Force One. The Air Force One plane was on the runway in my first visit to America, and they held me up for 3 hours. President Clinton, Bill Clinton, the Queen's half-brother, was on that plane that day. And when President Obama was inaugurated in 2008, he almost ran me over outside the White House, which is exactly the same as the Vatican and almost exactly the same as the massive cathedral St. Paul's in London. St. Paul's School hosts the skulls all of these companies and all of the city and guilds are tied into the ancient things that make the City of London an archipelago and out with English law since the Magna Carta was signed. Okay? Are you beginning to see it? I don't need to show you all the cartoon characters, although I could if I wanted to, because I tried to get Hanna-Barbera up there, and if I were to go to images, oh no, sorry, we want to go to Cambridge College, so I need to go to here really quickly because I'm going to run out of batteries soon now. So Baren-Cohen, that is Borat and Ali G, was educated at Christ College, Cambridge. There he is. Isn't he a sensible looking chap when he's not taking the piss out of the brutalised world? Okay? He could be a sensible chap. He and his brother could save the world if they denounce what happens with all these cover-ups, and if we are just able to laugh at the world because we like humour without persecuting people or without covering up criminals. This man and Madonna could become heroes. I'm in touch with his brother. His brother never replies. He's a neuroscientist. He's working on autism, and there's a big body of evidence that autism may be caused by drugs. And when you see in the psychiatric pediatric sector what they have done with drugs like Ritalin, they give them by habit to make profits from the children who are over medicated. Life is a biological spectrum, and the pharmaceutical industry cannot accept that. They take the extremes and they treat it. And when I tell you about the Bloomsbury set that have been educated and are linked to secret societies through Christ College, Cambridge, then you will see how extreme that gets. They launched the psychiatric drug crazes and the psychedelic drugs that are used by the New World Order bands and are now the commitment of Richard Branson with serious opiates and cocaine issues. He wants to dismember Western society by drug addiction. That's Branson, the drug czar who lives in the tax havens, does not pay a cent in tax, has the orgies with the Mithria on the tax havens and the Fleming family and Tony Blair and all of the people that run our world selfishly and greedily. This man could be better than that. I don't know what's in his heart. It's impossible to see because he spends his whole life pretending that he's a buffoon. And he was educated at Haberdashers' Boys' School. Yeah, the Haberdashers are the mercers that make the silk stockings and are linked to the massive banks and to the girls' school right under St Paul's, run by Prince Charles's financial advisor. Okay, there's all the roles that this man plays: Borat, Ali G, Bruno Gerhard, and I read earlier that he also played the role of a Bruno. Now the Bruno is the head of the World Bank and is a Jewish thief in massive cabals, and Frank Bruno and all of that has been mentioned in an extensive video that I made with John Patterson. Okay, so this is just part of the story. Let's go to Christ College quickly. Darwin was at Christ College and John Milton was at Christ College, and John Milton wrote Paradise Lost, which is 11 or 12 massive volumes about the early phases of globalization and the devil's advocate ambitions. Okay, there it is. It's lovely. It's bomb-proof in World War II because it's run by the profiteers in World War II. Okay, founded by William Bingham in 1437.